So last Sunday, we learned from the Apostle Peter in his first letter that we have a title, the royal priesthood. It's the title of humanity. And it turns out it is a title that includes all humanity. In the age of generative artificial intelligence, being human is becoming our common denominator, our core connection, and I hope our top priority. That may seem self-evident, but it's not. I know it's not because we have wars. I know it's not because we have poverty. I know it's not because there are people starving. We do not make people our top priority in the world today. And maybe we can argue that that's been okay up until now, right? Maybe that's what happens naturally when you get to the top of the evolutionary pyramid. Maybe. But how we got here is not something I'm interested in litigating today, particularly given the fact that the ground is moving under our feet. The seismic shift that has been brought about in this new artificial neural networks that are developing. It's felt as if we've been sort of thrust into one of those movies where you find yourself where an asteroid is barreling down on the earth. You know what I'm talking about? And we're all there, and suddenly it becomes more important to save the world than to argue about what books are in a library or whatever we're arguing about at that moment in time. This is a moment we must meet with a paradigm shift, where the big things that make us human take precedent over the small things that differentiate us as individuals. This is a moment to shift our thinking about our common humanity. And that hasn't been the case up till now. Misogyny, slavery, genocide. This is what we've been thinking about and spending our time doing, among other things, as human beings. And now, and I quote a physicist friend of mine who's a parishioner here, he said, "We have neural networks and no one really understands how they work. And I might add, what they're capable of doing." For some of you that saw The Economist today, you'll know they feel that way at Google. At least one person does with the memo that's out, titled, "We Have No Moat Any Longer." Maybe that sounds dramatic. Maybe there's a note of hysteria here. But suppose I'm wrong. Suppose the scientists that are concerned about this are wrong. Suppose that AI and robots really just remain in the realm of science fiction and never live up to the hype that they're getting right now. I mean, I've been wrong before. And I'd be and I'd be happy to be wrong again if the forcing function of false thinking about artificial intelligence still pushes us to a paradigm shift. From human division and fear, the kind of fear that causes an old man to shoot a kid who happens to come to his door, to a world where an old man invites a kid to come in and have a cup of tea because of their common humanity. And there was a time when the world was more like that, when kindness and generosity and hospitality were a reflection of a person's core character. That's part of our story, incidentally, modeled by our patriarch, Abraham, and his spouse, Sarah, at the Oaks of Mamre, when they showed three strangers hospitality who happened to be wandering by. There was a day when the strangers were welcome because they were made in the image and likeness of God. They were not feared, but embraced because of their common humanity. How's that sound? Okay? It's true. If the false flag of artificial intelligence pushes us to be better neighbors, then I'm all for the delusion. Though in truth, I'd not be standing here talking about this issue if I didn't believe it was going to change the world. There is before us well-studied predictions playing out in real time that the neural networks built within the minds of machines will displace humans, that's us, in some categories of evolutionary supremacy played out practically, like driving buses or doing surgery or writing legal briefs. And some of us don't want to believe this, and some of us can't let ourselves believe this, and some of us are fully freaked out by this. Some of us may think, I've gone mad. And yet, as I said before, if this is a false flag, I will follow it because we must shift the paradigm. We must prioritize our common humanity. Artificial intelligence seems a good forcing function that requires us to ask the question, what does it mean to be human? What's it mean to be human? And how can I be a better one? Now, we have solid answers to this question. We've had solid answers for 2,000 years. Jesus gave us our mission statement today in the Gospel of Luke. He defines the job description of the royal priesthood. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your mind, and with all your strength, and with all your soul, and your neighbor as yourself. That's our mission statement. It outlines who we are, and because of who we are, what we are called to do. It defines our ontological nature. I love that word, ontological. John, I love that word, don't I? All right. It means our completeness. It means our fullness. It includes our physical and metaphysical being, with our physical being our body and our mind and our emotion, and our metaphysical being summed up as our heart and our soul. And it is our metaphysical attributes of our human nature, our heart and our soul, that will enable us to be rulers over artificial intelligence and the machines they run. If we do not own our metaphysical nature, then our physical nature, our emotions, and our intellect and our bodies will be managed and manipulated, I fear, by generative AI. Its superiority over us will create dependencies that diminish our humanity and maybe exacerbate scarcity, magnifying those small differences that live between us in a way that divides us. And if it can divide us, maybe conquer us. Dramatic, huh? It's funny, up until now, I think many of us, at least myself, thought of humans as machines that you could tweak and tune. But now that we have machines that are better at doing a lot of things than we are, a lot of people are wondering about things metaphysical. A couple weeks ago, I heard an interview on the radio, and they were talking about art and what is art, what it means to generate art. And is AI-generated art really art? And the artist they were talking to kept saying, no, it's not, because it doesn't have a soul. AI-generated art, according to this person, doesn't have a soul. And he kept repeating that. And I wondered, as I heard that, if he knew that he was talking about God. Christianity in the age of artificial intelligence is as relevant as it has been in the last 200 years. Because we understand the heart, and we understand the soul, and we understand our metaphysical nature, and we understand that this is critical for retaining our sovereignty over non-sentient beings from this day forth forevermore. Are you with me so far? Okay, because now I want to get really granular on this topic regarding the heart and the soul and what it means to be human. And we'll start with our single human defining characteristic, the presence of a soul. A soul is what qualifies us to be included in the caste of the royal priesthood. If there is breath, then there is a soul. The soul is a mystery that belongs fully to God, and furthermore, a soul cannot be formed or transformed by human effort. The soul has no agency unto itself, which is why the soul is what establishes parity among all human beings. Now, that's a big idea. So I'm going to say a lot more about that in 2 weeks. So it's the soul, then, that gives us our common denominator. It's our soul that connects us. We are soul sensates. And it is this reality that necessitates the paradigm shift from the petty divisions of our idiosyncratic diversity to the beauty of our human inclusivity. So if a human being is no more than a random tangled mass of neurosynapses that regulate or dysregulate dopamine and oxytocin, then by 2070 we'll be selfish, frustrated creatures depending on machines and at odds with one another. If we deny the presence of a soul, if we deny the soul, then we are trapped in the body. And that's all we are. And if that's all we are, then we're scampering between perceived scarce resources. We are at odds with one another, even as we are drawn fitfully towards the obscurity and oblivion of death. But you see, I don't believe that is all that we are. I believe we are more than that. We're souls. But we're souls, and we have agency, which brings us to the other metaphysical topic, and that of the heart. As Christians now, our primary focus is on the heart. The heart is the home of human freedom and human creativity. The spiritual exercises of Christianity are designed for character formation. And that is more important in the world than ever before, where the quality of character will be the foundation upon which truth is determined. I talked about that a little bit last Sunday. Now, the heart I'm talking about sits outside our physiology. It's a metaphysical reality. It is not a thing that pumps blood, nor a bundle of nerve endings encased in bone. Because the heart has a job, right? It is the heart's job to decide. The heart chooses what the mind thinks about the mind. The heart is in charge of the mind. The heart chooses how to respond to emotions that flood up inside us. The heart is responsible for how we respond to feelings. The heart chooses how we manage the urges of our bodies. The heart reigns over our body. So the point of practicing the spiritual exercises is to train this heart, to train it in a way that it accidentally, without thinking about it, where it habitually chooses ways of thinking and feeling and acting that care for our sibling soul sensates. The goal of the spiritual exercises is to love our neighbors even when we're not thinking about loving our neighbors. Right? Heart formation is about the development of human character. So by practicing Christianity, we become the kind of people who are habitually clear-thinking, physically comported, and emotionally well regulated. That is what we seek as Christians. And it is in the seeking that makes us worthy of the title, the royal priesthood. Heart and soul determine our sovereignty as human beings made in the image and likeness of God. We are who we are because of who our God is, Father and Son and Holy Spirit. And if we do not understand our nature, if we deny the metaphysical, believing simply in our organic composition, then we will not have the capacity to understand how to manage the machines that were meant to serve us, all of us, every single person equally. It is the understanding of the character of the heart and the connection of the soul that is the mandate of Christianity in the age of artificial intelligence. It is our mission to be carried out for the full benefit of all people. That must be our top priority as the ground shifts. To pick up the mantle of our faith and to do our work, which is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all of our mind, with all of our strength, and with all of our soul, and our neighbor as ourself. That is who we are. That is how we're called to act in the world. That is our mandate as the royal priesthood.